just talking about LSU's class.
All right. I want to take this opportunity on, I guess this is the second signing day, or however you guys would like to designate it, but we did have one player in the state of Louisiana sign. He happens to be the top player in the state of Louisiana, so we wanted to give him the due respect. Dominic McKinley out of Acadiana High School signed with us this morning. We're excited about him, a consensus 5-star defensive lineman, ranked 13th nationally. I think that's 8 out of the top 12, 12 of the top 15 players in the state of Louisiana that we're able to sign in this class, and certainly adding Dominic to this class really tops it off for us. So really excited about his national letter of intent this morning.
More from BK talking about the class, both high school and portal additions.
The transfer portal additions that I didn't talk about back in December. And look, I mean, it's very strategic for me in terms of looking at the portal. You know, we looked at it from a perspective of fit and need, but fit first. And as I've said to you before, I think it's, you know, for us, we're going to develop and build this program with high school players and then be very strategic with the portal. It's no coincidence that 4 out of the 6 players are from the state of Louisiana and have ties to the state of Louisiana, 2 from Baton Rouge out of U High, 2 from New Orleans, and John Ehret and Warren Easton High School. And then 2 that are established players from the SEC. One of the things that we needed to do from an offensive perspective is we needed to add some offense back into an offense that lost some prolific weapons, and we do that with 3 players in particular. A.J. Swan, C.J. Daniels, and Xavion Thomas. If you take those 3 together, combined, they bring in 4,200 yards of offense total. And so, you know, you look at, for example, A.J. Swan with 22 touchdown passes in 23. Jaden Daniels had 19 in his first year. So, you know, you're bringing in somebody that you feel really good about his ability to generate offense at the quarterback position. C.J. Daniels, 1,000 yards in receiving. And so, again, you know, replacing some offense was very, very important strategically, as well as we continue to develop and bring along young players in our program. We needed to do that. And Xavion Thomas, you know, 500 yards and 40 touches. Now you've got almost 100 touches with 2 wide receivers that have experience coming back into your offense. So that was really important to us.
More from BK. Here he is talking about Dom McKinley and getting the big defensive tackle to flip.
Well, look, you know, when we're talking about the flip, you know, certainly the coaching change there started it, right? So it gave us an opportunity to continue to talk about why we thought that this was the best fit for him. And during that time, when there's a transition, you know, you're able to, build a stronger relationship and trust. And so, you know, a lot of these are built upon that. And we did not have, a consistent situation either at the defensive line position. So, you know, we were fighting against it on both ends. So, you know, we had to solidify our situation and build some continuity there. But the window was opened with the transition at A&M, and then we just became consistent with our ability to get with him and his family and show them why this was the best choice.
We mentioned the success in the state of Louisiana for Brian Kelly and LSU in this recruiting cycle. Here was Kelly yesterday talking about the emphasis.
Well, I mean, locking down is a great word to use, but I think what has to happen is you got to go out, and each coach has to have a geographical area in the state of Louisiana, and then a pathway to get to the border states. So everybody has to be involved in the state of Louisiana, and you can't take any geographical area for granted. You've got to be all over the state. So I think it's just a commitment to, getting out there and working hard. And that's, I think our staff did a really good job of getting out there and working hard and doing the due diligence necessary to, represent a really strong brand. So I don't think it's rocket science. I think it's really about working hard and building those relationships and not taking anything for granted. Just because we're LSU, they're going to come. You need to recruit. And I think our guys did a really good job of recruiting, and we need to continue to do that.
Added some Louisiana flair in coaches this offseason as well, as it looked as there was an emphasis on adding Louisiana blood to the staff. Here is Brian Kelly talking about that crew representing LSU on the trail.
I mean, it's been stated that, my goals here are to, first and foremost, recruit the state of Louisiana. So you can imagine that that's going to be part of, the thought process. I can't tell you it's the most important thing because we got to stop people. We got to keep the points down. We've got to be able to coach and teach and, motivate. But certainly that has to be part of the process as well. Because that's a stated goal of how we recruit. So where does it fall on the list of importance? I would probably echo what you said. I think it's intentional. But is it the first thing on the list? Probably not. But it's definitely something that you don't necessarily. I would say when we all see those job descriptions, is it mandatory? No, but strongly, I think worded that you should have experience recruiting in the state of Louisiana.
He wanted Louisiana coaches. I mean, I think he went a long way to just say, no, it didn't mean everything. And it wasn't the deciding factor on whether or not you got the job, but it meant a lot. And it was obvious because everybody he added in the offseason seems to have some type of tie or understanding or been around the state in some sense of recruiting it, coaching the game in Louisiana. And I just think that makes sense. And I'm not trying to go back to the one of us discussion because it's not that. It's just being able to understand how the conversation moves. I think Brian Kelly had to adjust to that. I mean, when Frank Wilson he goes on a high school campus and recruits a player, sometimes he can spend half a day, all day on that campus. You're meeting not just with the football coach, you're meeting with the guidance counselor, you're meeting with the principal, you're meeting with the teachers, you're meeting with assistant coaches, you're meeting with people around campus that may know the player. If there's anybody who's very close to the player, like a girlfriend, a brother who's on campus as well, you spend time with them. I mean, there was an adjustment that I believe everybody had to go through the first couple of years on campus for Brian Kelly to realize that the LSU job is in a class that only a few sit in, but it's different than the rest of them because of the way that the state is run, the way that the culture and the state and the football program all exist, the way that the state looks in the relationship to LSU's football program. There's no competition to it. There's no Auburn to Alabama. There's no Mississippi State to Ole Miss. There's no Florida to Florida State. There's no Georgia to Georgia Tech. There's no South Carolina to Clemson. I mean, Texas to Texas A&M. There's none of that in Louisiana. It's all LSU. There's politics in it. There's money in it. There's favors in it. There's all types of things threaded into it that if you come from the outside and you see it from the first time, you may say, I'm not doing that. I'm not playing along like that. And then you get on the job and you realize, I guess I'm going to have to go over there and dabble a little bit. And it's not as if it's elite. It's just it's the politics of Louisiana. It's getting to know the people, being able to get to the back office, getting to know the right people, the decision makers, the ones that ultimately control the choice, the player, the people that you need to see. And having those relationships, having those people who can get into those doors, get in front of those characters, in front of those people, Brian Polian can't do that. And that's just the truth of it. And for as much as we bang on Polian for how goofy he was during his days at LSU, it's not really his fault. You just don't know. Once you get here and you get, I tell you, our audience all the time, I mean, Will Wade has described to me what it's like to come to Louisiana, to come to LSU as an outsider when you don't know anybody. It's a very scary predicament. And if you don't choose the right door, if you don't go with the right people, it could be over quick. You could lose your way. You could lose your sense of just kind of who's with you, who's against you, where do I need to go, who do I need to see. I mean, all of the politics of it. And for as grimy and as slimy and as, underground as it may seem, and it's been here forever. It's unbeaten. And, I'm not saying that bringing in Louisiana coaches is all political, but bringing in Louisiana coaches who have a tie to the state, who understand how it works, get that part of it. And understand that there's a little bit of a game you got to play.
I think that's the most important thing he's done, right? Like if you don't know where you're going, find your Sacagawea, somebody that can take you there, right? Like you lean on people like Frank, Blake, Joe Sloan that have all been around it. It's like I know Sloan's not technically from Louisiana, but he's got enough Louisiana ties to where he knows how to recruit the northern part of Louisiana. Frank obviously knows New Orleans. Cortez Hankton knows New Orleans. Like all of these people to help you move and shake in the right direction, you lean on those guys for that kind of almost protection. If you don't kind of know what you're doing, you can get lost in the sauce in Louisiana very quickly. Like, how did I end up here? Like, I don't know if I'm running with the right group.
Easily.
And then you have a guy like Frank, you're like, no, not that door, this door. And you're like, oh, thank you.
Stay away from that door.
Right. That's how you get picked up by the police and dropped off in the Fifth Ward, Mr. Culotta.
Do not go through that door. I mean, at all, right? Here's BK talking about the expansion of college football going to the 12-team playoff. How does the calendar need to change for coaches and programs?
Yeah, I think we're past lobbying. There's no more lobbying. I think what has to happen, and I think we saw this, the SEC and the Big Ten commissioners got together and said, look, we're going to try to have some form of consensus when it comes to legislation, some form of consensus when it comes to moving agendas. And that will fall now heavily on, our next meeting when we get together on the 15th relative to this particular item which you brought up, and that's the calendar. What can happen is we get into a room and we have 8 opinions. We have to have one voice. And we have to move forward with one decision and one voice on how we begin to get hold of a calendar that is, well, quite frankly, not manageable. So what is that going to look like? I mean, I could give you 10 different scenarios and 10 different people could agree or disagree with them, but something is going to have to change with the calendar. Or this is just, this is a runaway train that's going to end in a bad place. Good. Thank you.
Feels like the change is coming here with Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti getting together. I mean, it really feels like this is going to be a movement. This is going to be something that is going to cause some change, because when you've got when you've got characters, when you've got people like Brian Kelly speaking of college football in that light, when he speaks, people listen. When he speaks about college football, the sport stops and hears what he has to say. He's the most active, winningest coach that is in the game right now. And when he says things like that, where it's unmanageable, it's a runaway train if you don't stop it. Those are the voices that have spoke loud enough that I believe Sankey and Petitti understand that it's time. It's time to get this done before you lose so much ground on it that, I mean, it is difficult to screw up college football, right? I mean, can we all agree on that? I mean, it's a universal product. It's a product that sells to just about every single demographic that is out there. Male, female, age, race, ethnic, sex, it doesn't matter. It crosses over all of the boxes. People like it. It's hard to mess it up. They're flirting with screwing it completely up. And I think Sankey and Petitti look at it and say, all right, look, man, if we don't step in here and really govern this thing and get it right, you could lose it. I mean, potentially, not next season, not 5 years, but I mean, just chip away at it. Continue to just, deteriorate a product that is as good as our country can provide, as entertaining and as good, as passion, as much fandom, as much support, all of that wrapped up into one. It's as big as what feels like international soccer. When you watch those
hooligans,
I mean, when you see those types of images, the way people care about that sport feels comparable to college football in America.
But then America went all over everybody's ass with, I mean, you let it become a free market. That's what people are going to do in America. They're going to turn it into capitalism as soon as you can. It was a free market. And I don't know if the system was built for that, where it was that you kind of had power players at the top. And I don't think it's any surprise who was making the moves, because it's always been the guys at the top. I mean, there's always been the have and have-nots in terms of college football. Like there was no shift in who actually got better. It just became who could actually afford to do it. That's how A&M kind of nudged their way into the table. But the Georgias, the Alabamas, LSU, Ohio State, like they're all still going to be there at the end of the day. But then you just start attaching a number to it, and it becomes, okay, if I can get this player, then maybe we can insert ourselves in the conversation. That's what Tennessee did. They went and paid $8 million for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, this is how if this is what it takes to win, you get enough people that are like-minded that want to do it, you can find the money at some point. But in that same vein, they're not going to do it forever, and that's where the sport is kind of at a tipping point of how often are you going to rely on a handful of boosters to continue to fund the sport?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't do it. I think